First of all, where's this data coming out of, Connor?
The Pew Research Center did a survey. They called a bunch of men and women on the phone. It's supposed to be a representative sample, so it should be more or less kind of a nice cross-section of the total population.
And just coming out this morning within the last hour or so.
Yes, came out at 11. And, you know, so it looks at young women. I think it's 18 to 34. There are other men and women in there as well, but that was sort of the focus, is these young people. And I think they had similar data from 1997, and back then, men had placed a higher priority of having a high-paying career, and now that's totally flipped. Lots of things are behind this. Women go to college much more than men now. I think that's true in some kinds of professional schools as well. So,
and certainly buying homes alone at a far greater clip than they have in the past.
Well, yeah, they are progressing with the economy in a way that men are not.
And let's back out and like pull out some of these stats. I think some of the things you had pulled out originally were that women, 66% of women ages 18 to 34 consider a successful career a life goal now. That's compared with 59% of men. And in 1997, just 56% of women rated career success as a priority. So that's a pretty significant change. Again, let's go back to some of the reasons behind this. I mean, we're pointing out obviously more women looking for high-paying jobs, more women raising children alone. What other things can you read into this data, Connor?
I think for me, you can put a lot of cultural things onto this, and that's important, and I'm sure it's all true. I think that the college thing is the biggest thing. I mean, we live in an economy now where the highest paying jobs go to people who work with their minds, by and large. And men have just not caught up with that in any way the same way, in the same way women have.
And we're looking at, there's also distinction, if we could bring that chart back up one more time, between younger women and young men. I mean, even that's the jump right there we were talking about. What about younger women versus older women?
More older women put a high priority on it, but the younger women are still higher than them, if that makes sense.
And I interrupted you before, but go back to what you were saying.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I mean, I think college is the whole thing. I mean, they go to college and the options are open to them. Obviously, men have been hit really hard in this recession, so that might be playing into it a little bit as well. But this is like a big thing with it's kind of weird. Women are kind of doing what you would think they would do, which is the economy is valuing college. It's you know, giving higher paying jobs to that, and they're responding in the way that you would think someone would, to a greater incentive. Right. And men for some reason aren't, and this is just one more data point that sort of shows, you know, women are sort of living in the 21st century in a way that men aren't.
Do we know what the time period is that they're looking at with this research?
Well, they did it this year. It's this year, give or take. Yeah, I mean, it might have been last year. I mean, it's not like a long time ago or something like that. I don't precisely know, but it's current, more or less.
I wonder if this suggests at all that women have, at least younger women, have become more sort of panicked by what's happened with the economy, you know, over the past few years and the high unemployment rates than men.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that a lot of that probably plays into it, but I think I don't want to take away from this long-standing sort of catch-up they've had, and I guess my point is that, you know, for decades women have been trying to get or have been sort of moving ahead of men, right. And this is and the recession certainly might have been one more push on that, but there's a, you know, I think that there's a more fundamental sort of drive here.
And yet parenthood still it remains very important. We were just looking at some stats on that, and good marriages we're looking at here for both women and men remains very important. So to some extent we see women in a, not a predicament necessarily, but a situation they've been in for a long time of trying to have it all. They want the high-paying job, right, the good marriage, and they want to have children.
So yeah, exactly. So and they want to be, and I think forget what the actual numbers was, but being a good parent was very important to them. Like that, like skyrocketed. So the thing I asked one of the researchers this exact question. I said, you know, well, if you were to put a question on here that said, do you want to be Superwoman? Like, right. Do they say yes to that as well? Hard to know. But one thing she did say that interested me, she said, you know, they sort of said that they expected some amount of their free time to decline. So at least there is like a fundamental understanding that this isn't going to be easy and all that. Another thing, this is just a minor cultural observation, but I was talking to a couple women for this story, And one of them said she thinks that the sort of the era of the supermom is over. You know, that the supermom used to have to do everything, but now she expects to do everything, but also with help. From her husband, that is.
Interesting. So she wants the high-paying career to have the help to be able to do everything to some extent.
Well, and I think that's why you would see this sort of be something you would see in the broader population, as opposed to, like, you know, the iconic supermom. It's sort of like everybody wants these a large plural, 2/3 of women want all of these things, and you know, I don't think. I think that they see it as a sort of societal norm that they could just have it because they'll get more help and, you know, that sort of thing from their husbands, and it'll be more of a sort of shared responsibility.